Of course, we're going to go live with another episode of Q&A. So, guys, if you have any questions, you can ask them into the comments, and I'm more than happy to answer those questions for you. The questions you want them to be around nutrition, your training, your mindset struggles, anything that you're struggling with in your fitness journey that's either impacting your results or you getting started. I'm happy to answer the questions, guys. You just pop them in the comments, and if I can't answer them, I'll tell you straight up. All right, here we go. First one off the cab. I have heard that if we just pay attention to our hunger and fullness, this is a good guide to regulate our eating. What are your thoughts? Oh, challenging one straight up. The short answer is it depends. Like everything in fitness, it depends. Here is the reason it depends. What has been shown by the science over and over and over again is that if you are carrying extra weight, and it's not just restricted to people that are carrying extra weight, but if you are carrying extra weight, there is an impact on your hunger hormones. So what that means is that the hormone that gives you satiation, the hormone that tells you you're full, and the hormone that tells you you're hungry tend to be a little bit out of whack. So what that means is that you might be feeling not hungry, but you're actually hungry. You might be feeling not full, but you're actually full. And so I don't think that for most people, it's a good gauge to be using just hunger and fullness as a guide. Now, another example of this is if you eat really quickly because you're so hungry, it takes 15 to 20 minutes for your full belly to tell your brain that you're full, which is why how many of us like sit down and pig out at a meal and then go, oh, like 15 minutes later. And that's happening because it takes time for the signal to be relayed from your belly to be tell your brain that, hey, stop eating, you're full. So I don't think it's the best gauge. I think that you're better to try to eat a little bit slower and pay more attention to the calories and the protein that's in the meals. If you don't want to track, if you just hate the idea of tracking, like I've got to make this so clear. If you just hate the idea of tracking, the simplest thing that you can do to lose weight, if you don't want to do food tracking, is literally you just eat as many single ingredient whole foods as you can. Does that make sense? Single ingredient whole foods. So that's fruits, vegetables, meats, right? Low-fat dairy products, things that don't have a bunch of additives into it. Does this make sense? I'm going to read a comment here. It's great that most PTs are finding that hormones play a great part in weight issues. Yeah, so good comment there. What I will say is that I did a podcast episode. If you want to listen to it, you can search the Better Body Academy podcast. It was the last episode. And in that episode, I talked in depth about the impact of hormones. Nadredzings, you are accurate that hormones do have a role and they can make things harder, but it doesn't mean that you cannot lose weight. That's just really important to understand. They do impact, but it doesn't mean that you can't lose weight. All right, next up. As a woman, should I take creatine and how much? Oh, I love this. And I love that so many women are getting involved in creatine. This is so good, including my beautiful mama, right? You should be taking this supplement. This is, for me, it's bordering on like a non-negotiable. Unless you have some existing kidney disease, you should be taking creatine. Massive benefits right across the scope. These include better strength, better muscle building, better burning of fat, and then even mental benefits. Now, how much should you take? For a long time, the recommendation was 5 grams or a teaspoon a day. Some suggestions out now that it should actually be higher than that. I take about 10 to 12 grams a day, just 2 heaped teaspoons in a cup of water at the start of the day with my protein shake, and that's it. So don't overthink it. Creatine is super cheap, very safe, and something that I think most people should be on. All right, I'm going to take this question from Amanda Ruck. How are you, babe? Good morning. All right, so the question goes a little bit like this. And by the way, guys, if you do have questions, you can ask them live. I really need a good kick up the rear end. The past few weeks, I've completely dropped off, although trying to maintain a daily walk. I have been binging this past weekend, and from previous habits, I feel I'm slipping away. I tried to hit reset almost 2 weeks ago, but now I feel like I'm failing. Help, please. All right, if you're watching this, I want you to let us know in the comments if you have felt that exact thing. Because, Amanda, the truth is, mate, the only difference between you and most people is you have just put your hand up and said, hey, I want to be accountable. Guys, everyone wants a perfect journey. Everyone wants to go from A to B. Oh, I want to lose 20 kilos. I start on January 1, and by June 30th, I want to make sure that I've lost 20 kilos. Sorry, it doesn't work like that. If it worked like that, everyone would be of a perfect weight. The reality is 2/3 of the world are not in that situation, Amanda. And so I don't necessarily know if you need a massive kick up the ass. I personally think that a lot of people come at this the wrong way. You don't need to kick up the ass. What you need is to just come back into the group, be a little bit more accountable, and then go back and simplify things. So what do? I want you to just think about the most potent part of your fitness transformation. It's not lifting weights. Walking's important, but if you want results, it's your nutrition. This is it. It's your nutrition. This nutrition is number one. And the reason is you can go for a walk and burn 150, 200 calories, or you could just not eat the 200 calories in 5 minutes. So here's the thing. We've got to go back to basics with our nutrition, and we've got to keep it simple. So what do we do? If you're in Better Body Academy, you could just go back to the meal plan. If you are in Better Body Academy and you don't like all the variety of the meal plan, that's okay. You can just repeat the one day. If you don't even want to go that deep and you don't want to be so structured, here is a challenge. And I would say to you, Amanda, I think this is a very good challenge. I challenge you to go this week without eating any packets. Straight up, without eating any packets. I'll make some caveats. You're allowed to have low-fat dairy products, so that'd be cottage cheese and milk. But apart from that, I don't want you to eat any packets at all. This means for carbs, you've got to have potato, sweet potato, corn. That means you've got to have meats, fruits, vegetables, eggs. Amanda, I dare you to do that. And to anyone that feels a little bit like they're overwhelmed and struggling, I dare you to do that. Single ingredient whole foods for 1 week. And I bet that to the end of this week, you jump on the scales or you do your measurements and something's changed. Single ingredient whole foods. We don't need to do any tracking. We just need to eat single ingredient whole foods. I had this epiphany on the weekend that, like, people are just, they join our program and they say, oh, it's just overwhelming at the start. It is overwhelming because you're taking on a lot of information and it's new. Of course it's overwhelming. That's to be expected. However, before you do any tracking, before you literally throw the baby out with the bathwater, stop eating from packets. If you can just think, single ingredient whole foods, 4 words, single ingredient whole foods. Here's what will happen. You will be so full from eating chicken and vegetables and fruit and eggs that you will be hitting your protein target and you'll be reducing your calories because you're full. You will not be snacking on the shit in between. If anyone wants to take up this challenge because they're feeling overwhelmed, I guarantee you that this will make changes come very, very quickly. And Ronnie says, agreed. Single ingredient whole foods. Keep the questions coming if you would like. Okay, next up. How do I know if I am in a plateau? I love this question. Is there any way to get through a plateau? And what should I focus on? Yes. Okay. So, firstly, I think a lot of people, what they do is they say, I'm in a plateau because they didn't lose weight 1 week. Guys, again, it's not going to be a straight line. And there's multiple reasons that you might not lose weight. Yeah, sure, it could be because you went away from the plan, but more likely it's because just movements in body fluid and your body that leads to plateaus. Okay. I would say plateaus are probably when you go 3 to 4 weeks with no real changes in anything. Okay. So you don't need it. You don't notice a change to your energy levels. You're not noticing changes to your strength. You're not noticing changes to your waist circumference, your hip circumference, your body, your photos. And I would say that 3 to 4 weeks of that would be a true plateau. So you've got to look at multiple indicators. You've got to look at the whole picture. It's kind of like saying, let me give you guys an example who are married. Give me a silent head nod if you're married. If you are married and I asked you, what state is your relationship in? And you said, well, me and my partner didn't go out on a date this week. Does that mean you've got a bad marriage? Not necessarily. It just means maybe you were busy. Maybe something else happened. Maybe you had family staying with you. Maybe the kids weren't on school. Whatever the thing is, you can't just look at one indicator and look at and give that assessment to your whole relationship. You guys keep looking at weight and giving that assessment to your whole fitness journey. It's actually fucking crazy when you put it in that scope, isn't it? Oh, you didn't have sex last night. You've got a terrible relationship. That's not accurate. There could be bloody numerous reasons for that. Stop just looking at one metric and making that the whole thing. Now, if you are in a plateau, what's happening? Okay, if you're in a plateau for a number of weeks, that's your body likely telling you that you are in maintenance calories. In other words, doesn't matter what you think you're doing, whatever you are eating versus whatever you are burning, you're in maintenance. Regardless of what you think you're doing, you're in maintenance because you're not losing weight, right? Now, what do you do if you're in that situation? Well, I would say it like this. Option one is to do a calorie cut or increase your exercise calories burned. That's option one. The problem with that option is if you're already on low calories, cutting further is just not sustainable. It's what most people do. They get stressed out and frustrated that they're in maintenance. So the first thing they do is cut the calories, and then they realize that they can't eat that little calories, so they start binging again. That's what we call yo-yo dieting. The very difficult, mature, emotionally intelligent play is to do what's called a reverse diet. That's where you think to yourself, okay, I've lost the first 5 kilos. Now what I'm going to do is start increasing my calories back up again, very slowly, so that I can do another cut to get rid of some of this fat in 2 to 3 months from now. The challenge is doing that requires some patience and some realization that you're in a phase where you're focusing on building your strength, being consistent, and not dropping the shit out of your calories. Does that make sense, guys? Hopefully that answers the question. Joshi says, I'm struggling with deadlifts. My lower back hurts. Let's have a look. I've tried lowering the weight, but still hurts. Okay, Joshi. First point would be, have you got an existing injury? If you have an existing injury, then it doesn't matter how many times you lift with good form. If the injury is there and existent, then it needs to heal before it's going to get better. So that might sound blunt and dumb, but that's the reality. For example, if I tear my pec doing a chest press, and then I go out the next week and try to press a bench press again, it's going to hurt. And that's got nothing to do with my form. So that's the first answer. Do you have a niggling injury? If no, and it's fine in between, then what I'd like to see, Josh, is you putting up a form video inside of our group so I can actually see it and critique it and give you some advice. The third thing, Josh, that I would highly recommend you do is go into the guides section of our Facebook group. And when you go into the guide section of the Facebook group, you will go through the group down to about guide 4, 5, or 6, and you will see additional workshops. And inside additional workshops, we have a 1-hour deadlift masterclass done with myself and Troy that teaches you exactly how to do these things properly. Okay? So 3 things to think about there, Josh. Have you already got an injury? Number 2, give us a form video. Number 3, go and watch the masterclass, mate. Okay? All right, team. What do we got? Next up, is working out thrice or twice a day good for the average gym goer? Will I see more results? Long story short, no, it's not good. There is very few people here that need to be working out more than once every second day. What's going to happen if you just think about it like this? You are breaking down the muscle in the gym, you're giving it nutrition, which is its building blocks, but then you're giving it no time to actually build. So it's actually detrimental to be constantly working out without having a break in between. I could go a little bit deeper in that, but that's the basic answer. Long story short, you do not need to be doing that. Okay, Angel says, when do we get our program? I joined yesterday, so excited to start. Jeez, I love it, Ange. Okay, so here's how that works. You submit your real reasons and your game plan, which happens after you've done your photos, and then Coach Troy looks at it and builds you a program from scratch. Okay, so it usually takes 2, 3, 4 days to get across, and it really depends on how quickly you do your real reasons document. Guys, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them into the comments and I will answer them and stay here until you are ready. Next up, is homemade fries better than regular fries at a fast food joint or that you get in a restaurant? What do you guys think? The short answer is, depends how you cook them. For those of you that don't have an air fryer, what are you doing? Air fryers, they go for about $100 if you just get a cheap one, which is pretty much what I did. It's lasted me so far about 4 years, and I use it every freaking day, right? The reason that air fryers are so good is they fry your food without the oil. Yep, you can give it a little spray, but for me, I cook fish, I cook crumb chicken, I cook sweet potato fries. What about you guys? Are you guys into the air fryers? These are sick because in the old days, the moment you submerged your crumbs, your crumbed fish or your crumb chicken or crumb pork or whatever it is, the moment that you put something with a coating in oil, it triples its calories. Now, fries are no different. Because of the starchiness of the potato, the moment you submerge it in oil, it triples its calories. If you can just give it a light spray, you will half the calories eating them at home, and it will taste better, and you won't get shitty, gross stuff going into your body that has been reheated and reheated and reheated and reheated over and over and over and over again. Yeah, fried food, not ideal. Next up, Vicky says, couldn't live without it. Yep. Why do I still have stubborn belly fat? Everything looks good except for my lower belly. Oh, baby, don't I feel that one? If you're in that boat, I absolutely feel you and it sucks. And I just want to let you know that it will go. What's the difference between someone that loses stubborn belly fat and someone that doesn't? Straight up, it's consistency over time. That's it. Why is this belly fat stubborn? It's stubborn because our genetics, our hormones tend to place it around here. For what reason? Well, who fucking knows, right? But for men particularly, is dangerous, right? Because it gets stored here. In the same way, for women that are going through menopause, it tends to get stored here. And it sucks because it feels really hard to move. And some people will need to basically lose all the fat in their face before they get rid of the last part of their belly. It sucks. It's really frustrating. And you can do all the sit-ups in the world and it won't make a difference. Now, what we should be thinking about here is if we can get to the point of lowering our overall body fat percentage, then eventually we will start to see a flatter belly. And I've got countless examples of this happening. In the same way that if you went to your pool and I told you to scoop all the water out of the shallow end, you could scoop all the water out of the shallow end, but while there's still water in the pool, it's going to keep filling up, isn't it? Just like stubborn belly fat, you got stubborn water. Having said that, if you eventually get the body fat percentage down to a level that there's not that much left, it will eventually leave the belly. Okay, does this make sense? That's the analogy I got for you today. I hope it helps. All right, have you ever heard of the whoosh effect? Mary says. You know what, Mary? I have, and I'm having a complete blind spot. And in true style, I'm going to be honest with you, and it's completely escaping me at the moment, and I can't remember actually what it is. Straight up. I will try to get you some information on that if I remember straight after this episode, Mez. And I'm very sorry. I should be able to answer that, but I can't even remember. I told you guys I'd be honest. Okay, what's the best way to structure a full body barbell routine for over 40s to try to gain a little bit of strength? Good question. What's the best way to structure it? Okay, well, assuming you're going to train, let's say, 45 minutes, here's the way that I would go about it. I would choose one exercise for my chest. I would choose one exercise for my back. I would choose 1 to 2 exercises for my legs, 1 exercise for my shoulder, and 1 exercise for my arms. So 6 exercises, chest, back, 2 for the legs, arms, shoulders. That's how I would structure it. Now, if we're talking about a home barbell routine, what might that look like? Which is a great question. Firstly, overhead shoulder press. That would be my favorite exercise there. If you're using a barbell only for back, it's going to be a bent over row. If you don't have a bench at home, it's going to be a floor press with a barbell. So a bench press with a barbell from the floor. We're then going to go to our legs. It's going to be a barbell squat. We're then going to go to our hamstrings, and it's going to be a stiff leg or a Romanian deadlift. And then it's going to be a bicep curl. Very specific question. I hope that helped. I've given you what I think to be the best exercises for each body part that you would do at home. Okay. Team, we're getting to the end of our questions. If you've got anything, what would you like to know? So this is a really interesting question. I got asked this through the week. What's the one fitness advice you can give yourself from when you first started knowing what you know now? Okay, I'm going to tell you what it is. For me, it is, I've kind of talked about this a little bit over the course of this podcast episode, and it is that you need to focus more on your nutrition to get the body that you want. I think a lot of people, they say things like, oh, my diet's good, but I just need to work out how to walk more or exercise more or whatever. Actually, it's the other way around for most people. The most important thing is that you are hitting your protein target. And if you don't know what that is, you should know. Number 2, that you've got some sort of calorie allowance in mind. You have to decide, what am I actually trying to do here? If I'm trying to lose some fat, well, I've got to have in mind what my calories and my targets should be. You're just never going to win the game just by exercising over and over and over and over and over and over again. For a lot of people, exercise can actually be inhibitory because what ends up happening is you do more exercise, you get hungrier. So it's a challenging thing. Get your nutrition right is the takeaway. All right, so we've got a question here from Leeson. Can I take D-ball pills alone for a month with my workout, knowing it isn't the correct method to be taking it? Just curious on what exactly I can do. I have no idea what D-ball pills are, listen. So you'll have to take away the shorthand or maybe advise me because I actually don't know what that is. Sorry, mate, if I'm coming across a bit daft, but I have no idea what D-ball pills are. Does anyone know what D-ball pills are? Got no idea. My brother, my sister, whoever it is. All right, so team, we've got one more question. I like making smoothies. Don't we all? I like making smoothies or protein shakes, but I want to add more than just the water and the powder. What can I add for a lean protein shake? Okay, so a lean protein shake. The word lean means muscle without fat. So when you say a lean protein shake, I'm going to assume you mean as much protein as possible without extra calories. So what can you add? Well, the base of it needs to be, I think, unless you're in a bulking phase or a reverse diet phase, you don't really want to be drinking your calories. So the bulk of it for me needs to be protein powder, of course, and then water. And then what can you add to it from there? You could add some yogurt. That would keep it pretty lean. You could add some egg whites. That would make it super lean because egg whites are almost like exclusively protein and water. They're probably the two things that come to mind. You could add some fruit like bananas and the like, but the reality is if it's a chocolate flavored protein that you're adding banana or oranges to, it just would taste weird. So yeah, strawberries, Vicky says, yep, that's a good call. Yep. So basically, the point of taking a protein shake is that you get the protein without all the extra calories. This is why I'm not big on meal replacement shakes, because you get the protein, but then you get the extra calories. And I would prefer you to be spending those calories on real food and enjoying your food, not drinking them in liquid form. So hopefully that answers the question. All right, so going back to the question, so D-bol, okay, D-bol, he's taking steroid tablets. Okay, cool, listen. So, all right, so it's really funny because people frequently comment on my stuff on Instagram and they say, oh, coming from a steroid boy, which is funny to me because if you've listened to any of my stuff for a long period of time, I'm pretty outspoken against steroids. It's not that I don't think that they, you can have a role for them in it's a personal choice. My biggest worry is this. Okay, and then I'm just going to be really, really honest. And to all the parents out there who have kids that are in the age range of like 15 years old and above, this is becoming a huge thing. And not just for men as well, for girls as well. Here is my worry. Okay, here's my worry. Can you do steroids in a safe manner? I think you probably can. Yes. Can you do them in a safe manner on your own, getting them from some guy at the gym that you don't know? Probably not. That said, my biggest worry and the reason that I've stayed completely away from them all of my life is this. Imagine you get to a point where you're at what you think is your capacity physically. For example, I've been training since I was like 10 years old or something. I've tried pretty hard and I can't really get any bigger or grow more muscle. It's just like, right? So at this point in time, if I was going to do steroids, then this would be a moment to which say, okay, well, I'm kind of at as good as I can get. I'm not seeing massive strength gains. Maybe I might try them. The worry for me would be right now I've been existing at this place for 10 years, and then all of a sudden within a couple of weeks, I can inflate that ceiling by say 30%. Okay. Now I've inflated that ceiling by 30%. And we all know that when we feel better physically, we feel better mentally. For anyone that's in Better Body Academy, you would see that yesterday I put up an image called the ladder to liberation, where your physical health goes up and therefore your mental health goes up, your mindset, your confidence, your self-image. So what I'd be really worried about, Lise, is that extra 30 to 40% that I get at the top associated with being stronger, being more muscular, being less fat. Okay, cool. What happens if, let's say after 6 months to a year, I decide that, all right, that's not a route for me. I'm getting older, my kids, I don't want to take steroids anymore. So I come back off them. Okay, now I'm 30% down on what that ceiling took me to. So now for the rest of my life that I can remember being on steroids, I'm never going to be as good as I was when I was on steroids. And that, my friends, is my biggest worry. It's not the physical component to this. It's that. I've seen so many guys and girls start, come off them, and then just feel so shit mentally that they're just not as good as they were when they're on steroids. So they'll go back on them again. That's my worry. Just my opinion, bro. I'm not saying that you do what you want, but that's my opinion. And it's the only reason that I haven't taken them is because I don't want to create that false ceiling. I'd rather be as close as I can to what I feel genetically able to do, and then we go from there, right? And I've also seen the end stages of a lot of people that ended up in steroid abuse, and it's pretty horrible, man, to be honest. I've seen some pretty bad stuff for people that couldn't stop it. So it's just not something that I would personally want to entertain. This said, when I get to an age of where my testosterone level starts tanking, I do think that there is a role to be played absolutely for hormone replacement therapy. Just like women will do HRT, I think men doing TRT to bring their hormone profiles back to some level of normality, I think is completely normal. But that doesn't seem to be the manner in which obviously you're talking about here. All right, team, I'm going to love you and leave you. Hopefully that was helpful this morning. If you guys have any questions, as always, bang them through